And we'd like to thank the World Health Organization for that video and that debrief on COVID. I want to thank all of you for joining us. For those of you just tuning in right now, I am journalist and founder of Good Trouble Productions, Rena Ninan, and I'm joined by a wonderful panel. We're going to look at safeguarding sport in a post-COVID era. We know that during this time period of COVID, it has been incredibly difficult for the international community, including the international global economic impact this has had. But what will sports look like post-COVID in the era with technology? How has this changed our sports community? I want to bring in and introduce our panel. Joining us now is Raffaele Chiulli. He's the president of SportAccord and the Global Association of International Sports Federation. Graham Stoker, the deputy president for Sport Federation Internationale, FIA, and also Marcus Diaz, who's the chairman of the Bureau of the 7th session of the Conference of the Parties to the Anti-Doping Convention, UNESCO, and also Joyce, who is CBE, OBE for FIFA, and also the General Secretary and the Chief of Social Responsibility and Education Officer. Joyce, quite a title. Did I get that right?
Yeah, sort of. Thank you very much. It's a bit of a long title, but it's Joyce Cook, Chief Social Responsibility and Education Officer at FIFA. Thank you. Thank
you, Joyce. I wanted to double check that. I had so much there for you. I'd like to kick it off, Raffaele, if we could start with you. I want to sort of, if you could give us maybe an update of the current situation where we are right now, and what do you think has forever transformed and changed under COVID?
First of all, let me thank you for the kind invitation and congratulations for having organized such a lovely event. On behalf of the entire GAISF and SportAccord family, I would like to share our concern, but also our best wishes for the athletes, the families, colleagues, and for everyone who has been affected by the global COVID-19 pandemic. Clearly, the international sport community has suffered, and many events have been either postponed or, unfortunately, have been canceled. But in spite of the pandemic, the sport community has had a significant amount of innovation and remarkable achievements, especially since many of us have been in the face of remarkable challenges. As we've seen, the world of sport did not stop because of the pandemic. And just as the situation with the pandemic is always evolving, our common solution have been dynamic and have been fully adaptable. We at GAISF and SportAccord have continued to work towards our common goal of building a better world through sport. So this is in a nutshell the way how we have been tackling, let's say, the situation with the pandemic. And I'm sure that I can come back to this point later during the discussion we will have.
Raffaele, I want to sort of ask you a little bit about your organization, about GAISF, and in particular, UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon described your organization and SportAccord as kind of like the United Nations of sports. When you look at it that way, if someone maybe isn't looking at it from an exclusive sports point of view, how would you describe kind of the global community and what it represents, as well as all the stakeholders in the international sporting world? What really would you say holds it together at this point? And what kind of melting pot? How do you see this all coming together?
Yes, indeed. Both Mr. Ban Ki-moon, my great friend, a person I have a great respect for, and also, as you correctly said, we have a fantastic melting pot where we bring together today, well, actually, since last week, 128 international organizations and sport federations from all over the world, summer and winter Olympic sport, IOC recognized or not yet IOC recognized international federation and sport discipline. In short, from the major Olympic sport to the new and emerging sport. But we equally support all our members and all our stakeholders to achieve their goals. In many cases, we have provided a clear pathway for our members, for our sport discipline to develop and grow, which ultimately for many is joining the Olympic program. But also we are developing SportAccord and GAISF into influential world governing bodies in sport, but not just in the Olympic movement, but allow me to say also within non-sport governing body. You mentioned Mr. Ban Ki-moon, the United Nations, vis-a-vis the United Nations, UNESCO, UNEP, we work very closely with them. For example, GAISF and several of our international sport federations pledged their commitment to the United Nations Alliance of Civilization, One Humanity campaign, which calls for solidarity, compassion, and unity in the face of discrimination and divisiveness. So we try to organize international sport gathering, but also multi-sport games. Why? For the simple reason that we have to create a platform for our international sport federation to showcase their sport discipline on a world stage. If you allow me just to give you an example, we have organized last year the inaugural World Urban Games in Budapest. Great success. Our athletes have been able to inspire the next generation, you know, and also to attract new fans. So it was a showcase, a comprehensive variety of demonstration, not only from the world of sport, but also the world of music, art, and certainly sport. So we had 50,000 people filling the venues in over a weekend, and certainly what makes me very proud is that young people and adults alike took advantage of our practice areas to try new activities. So we had many children from the local schools who had the opportunity to try out new sporting activities under the guidance exactly of these top level athletes, which were just a few minutes before competing, let's say, on the field of play. So we left them with a newfound inspiration for, in this specific case, urban sport, and they have the opportunity to interact also with their role models, let's say. But one thing I want to underline, and I conclude what I'm saying, it was a progressive multi-sport event which was proud to promote gender equality. What do I mean? Not only that there was an equal number of athletes from each gender, but also equal prize money across all the sport. And this is something that we encourage also other multi-sport events to do. So we had a great feedback from International Sport Federation, the media, and above all from the athletes themselves. So I just wanted to give you these multi-sport games as an example of what we are trying to do for our stakeholders and our sport federation.
And Raffaele, just a few weeks ago, SportAccord actually held the first ever digital sport federation forum. Among the participants was IOC President Thomas Bach, the WHO Director General as well. What were some of the takeaways from that? What are people in the sports community saying about how this post-COVID era might look like in the field of sports?
Well, the forum you just mentioned was for all of us a fantastic experience with so many concrete examples, best practices, and experiences from all over the world. We have seen how the International Sport Federation can use the COVID-19 pandemic as an opportunity, I underline, as an opportunity to explore new ideas and implement positive changes, as demonstrated by the several experts, contributors at our first ever fully virtual International Sport Federation Forum. So we had the opportunity to debate various challenges and responses to in relation to the ongoing pandemic, such as crisis management, scenario planning, events organization, and risk mitigation strategies that can be applied in the months and years to come. And in this respect, I see my great friend Graham Stoker connected, and I would like to publicly say thank to the FIA, because together, the UIM, I'm also president of the International Powerboating Federation, we had the opportunity to create a task force, a recovery task force, and we made great use of the experience of FIA for an early, safe return to competition. So Graham, allow me to thank you and Mr. Todd for the great contribution you gave to our sport. But also, let's say, during this IF forum, we had the International Olympic Committee President Thomas Bach, and also the World Health Organization Director General, Mr. Ghebreyesus, who have underlined how the ongoing close collaboration can help sport to play a key role in this global recovery from the COVID-19. So we have identified several countermeasures, and these countermeasures are being put in place to organize, just to mention an example, the Tokyo Olympic Games next year. So this was a great experience. And also, as we've seen at many competitions, we had the specific protocols identified, like the one I mentioned between UIM and FIA, etc. And these protocols have mitigated the impact of the pandemic, with many of our international sport federations adopting innovative approaches to engage followers, stakeholders, and athletes. So for me, for all our international sport federation, it was a great experience, and was a huge learn and share.
Raffaele, when you look in the coming year, how do you see, we've got great hopes on these vaccines that are coming out. It'll take time for those vaccines to get out and get distributed. Where do you see sports over the next year to 18 months headed?
For this very interesting question, first of all, we have to say what we have been doing. And many of our international sport federation, with our full support, they have organized innovative webinars, virtual workshop, and allow me to say also virtual competition, e-sport. This was something that is an area where we are focusing on. And certainly this means resilience, this means flexibility that our community has shown in the face of the pandemic. So basically, adaptation, we have adapted. And certainly we have continued to deliver the best that we could for our members, for our athletes, and certainly for our fans. So it has not been easy, and it will not be easy, but certainly we are working with our maximum commitment, passion, and energy. And I do believe that sport has remained a beacon of hope, and so much more throughout the pandemic. We don't have to forget this. And certainly, to answer your question, the pandemic has also required more than hope. So we have engineered a practical solution to try to do our best to change people's life for the better. And we have delivered this. When the first wave hit and the first lockdown became our new reality, sport was there to make our daily lives healthier and more tolerable. With our sporting heroes, as Joyce was saying, in the case of FIFA, we had quite a few giving their guidance, their encouragement to keep all of us active in our own homes. So we shared inspirational moments, which we'll never forget. And certainly, with the exercise being one of the only legitimate reasons to leave the house, we saw a big growth, for example, in running, in cycling, outdoor swimming, and many others. So Graham before was mentioning the bubbles. You know, since the first lockdown, the success of the bubbles in many professional sports showed that it was possible to resume certain activities safely. And we don't need to underestimate the financial impact that the COVID-19 had and will have on the world of sport. So the IOC played a key role in this, but also the Swiss federal government, for example, and all the cantonal authorities to allow the sport movement to continue to play its crucial role in the society. And we had many examples, but at the moment, to go back to your point, you know, to your question, we have many common challenges. For example, lack of access to training facilities, athlete mental health. So we don't have just to focus on the physical health of our athletes. There are clear issues with mental health. Marcos was mentioning all the challenges related to anti-doping. This is a key issue for us as well. But also, we don't have to forget the travel restrictions, because the travel restrictions are creating a lot of problems, you know. So what we are trying to do, and what we will do more and more, is to share the key lessons, you know, and shining a spotlight on the best practice. I want to give you a couple of examples. Some of the greatest pole vault athletes competed against one another from their own back gardens. You know, they call it the ultimate garden clash. Or for example, we have our colleagues connected with us today of the World Taekwondo. I have the great respect for this federation and for their president, Dr. Chu. What they've done, they launched the digital campaign King at Home, to show how fighters are coping with the global situation. You know, this is a combat sport, so they had challenge. Another example, World Archery, they launched the first remote archery competition, lockdown, knockdown. So these are just a few examples of how, you know, the sport community has adapted and also has entertained and engaged their fans. So I am very much encouraged to see, you know, this common goal of utilizing the power of sport as a symbol of positivity, hope, and allow me to say unity as well. So Tokyo 2020 done in 21 will be a great moment for, I hope it will be an incredible celebration for the whole humanity. And certainly we are working with the IOC in that respect. Joyce just mentioned a key point, and I conclude: sustainability. Sustainability is a topic which is close to my heart. It represents much of my life's work, both outside and within the sport. And we have recently announced at GAISF the Sustainability Award for 2020, with the World Sailing taking the top prize, and World Rugby and International Volleyball Federation came in second and third place. We had the honor to have with us His Serene Highness, the Sovereign Prince Albert II of Monaco, which is a great fan and a great leader in sustainability. So sustainability is not about empty words and promises. It is about turning words into meaningful, credible action and inspiring others to do the same. And the people who know me, they know that I do walk the talk. So let me conclude by saying that sport showed once again how it can bring communities together and help us to focus on the beauty of team effort, on the lessons of winning and losing with grace and fair play. Lessons that I believe are more important now than ever. As individual member of our sport family, we are all drops of water, some larger and some smaller, but together we are an ocean. Together we are much stronger.
Where do you see us going in this post-COVID era when it comes to sports? What is your vision and your outlook?
It's in line with what my colleagues at the panel said in some way, Joyce, Graham, and Marcus. We do not need to reinvent the wheel. We just need to create a platform to share good and best practices and to learn from many lessons and many things we didn't do right. I mean, I'm the first to admit, because it was a learning by doing exercise. So I will have the Olympic Summit soon on the 10th of December. Mr. Infantino, the president of FIFA, will be there. And I will have the opportunity to share some of the great things that FIFA has done and Joyce outlined. As far as the FIA, I only have to say thanks to this federation, because they lead the way. They strive for excellence, particularly in the area of safety and security. And what I do like about FIA, and Graham Sturcker is a great witness of that, they are not jealous of their learnings. They are prepared to share with other international sport federations. When we at the UIM have been knocking at their door to access medical expertise, to develop new standards, let's say, within the new situation, they've been very much open to give us what they've so far done and successfully achieved. As far as the anti-doping is one of our main areas of focus. We want a clean sport community, and we want to protect clean sport and clean athletes. So working hand in hand with UNESCO, I'm part of the permanent consultative council, at UNESCO with Philip Wurt and his team, on several issues, including good governance and fight against doping. Also, this is an area where we need to join forces now more than ever. With WADA, with ITA, the International Testing Authority, and certainly with NGOs like UNESCO. So I'm very much open, and I take the opportunity to invite all the panelists, let's say, to continue our open and constructive discussion beyond this forum. Thank you so much.